one human being has the power to change the outcome of an entire life. Or in my case, a marathon. Okay, that arguably wasn't as motivating as it sounded in my head. But this is still the story of how one woman changed the entire outcome of my marathon race within 5 seconds without knowing anything about it. And as it turns out, this story is also the leading cause for the very first tattoo that I got that I'm not going to show you yet. If you've ever run a marathon yourself or simply watched one on TV or in person, you may have noticed that there is a lot of spectators alongside the track. Now, a lot of these spectators actually put a lot of effort into holding up a sign. While there's probably more effort in making the sign than holding it up, some still go all the way out to make sure that you really see their sign. On July 23rd this year, the day of the San Francisco Marathon of 2023, I encountered the whole marathon atmosphere and the energy of the crowd for the very first time. And it was exhilarating. It was insane. There were people everywhere. It just blew my mind. So it goes without saying that it didn't take long for me to see the first people alongside the track holding up their signs, cheering on us runners as we passed them. Now bear in mind, this is 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday. So it was bonkers to me. I was feeling super energized and there was no time to be tired. Miles and minutes just flew by and I was feeling great, not having to stop at all. But then one of these signs was so good that I had to stop and take a picture. I mean, look at this.
Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs?
And also shout out to David Goggins, who watched the Instagram story that I made of that sign the exact same day. You're a legend, dude! Anyways, moving on. About an hour and a half in, after running across the Golden Gate Bridge for the first time, with the first rays of sunlight hitting my face and a fresh breeze of wind just blowing my hair around, I discovered this one woman that was standing next to the road that we were running on. She wasn't cheering for anyone particular, and she didn't bring any friends or any company. But what she did bring was a sign. And that sign said, "Run with your heart when your legs get tired." Now, when I first read that sign, I just looked at it for about 5 seconds and thought to myself, that's a nice sign. And then just kept on running. Little did I know that this sign would be of magical, almost divine help for me later on in the race. So I kept on running and everything just went great. It was buttery smooth all the way and I even had great engaging conversations with a lot of guys along the way. It wasn't until I made it past the halfway point and returning from the Golden Gate Bridge that I started to feel all the fatigue creeping in. About 15 minutes later, as I left the Presidio of San Francisco, I had to wrestle my way up the steep slopes of the San Francisco neighborhoods. And let me tell you, it was not pretty. Not only was this a very challenging terrain for me, as I wasn't used to running uphill, but I also was at a point where I was running way further than I ever ran in my life. And so by the time I managed to get through these neighborhoods and make it to Golden Gate Park, I was already dead. Having gone through all these difficult sections before, I didn't feel like I had it in me anymore to just keep running for one more minute. I was on the brink of giving up. It was still a long 8 miles to go. My muscles were burning, my mind was screaming at me to stop, and my legs were not moving at all. And that's where it hit me. Run with your heart when your legs get tired. The sign that, at first glance, I just smiled at and didn't even pay too much attention to, now felt more relatable than everything I've ever experienced in my life. My legs were burning, my mind was fed up, but there was one thing that hadn't quit on me yet. My heart. And so I made it my mantra, my prayer, my omnipresent force driving me forward. It was in that exact moment that I realized that from now on, it's all heart, no legs. It was like a second wind. I gathered so much power, so much strength from this one realization that I charged forward again. It was this kind of power that you only see in the movies, where the hero is down and he gathers all the strength he has left to make one final charge. And I was charging at that marathon with a lethal force. So I slowly got back into running. My legs slowly got moving again, and I was silencing my mind by always repeating the same one sentence. All heart, no legs. Nothing was going to stop me now. My legs were still burning, but I didn't rely on my legs anymore. Because my legs weren't running anymore, it was just my heart that was running at this point. And so through the power that this one sentence, this one mantra, this one sign gave me, I managed to finish the last 8 miles of the race without stopping once. My heart simply kept on running and everything else followed in line. I even managed to run the last 2 miles, the most draining section, the final stretch of the race, faster than my first 2. All thanks to one simple sign, held up by one hell of a woman. To this day, I still don't know who that person is, but if she ever stumbles across this video, just know that you made my day. Hell, you made my life. It was only because of this one sign that I realized that my legs were no longer part of this race anymore. It was all heart, no legs. And so it shouldn't strike you as a surprise that I now wear this exact sentence as a constant reminder of what you can achieve if you give it all your heart. Along with San Francisco's world-renowned Golden Gate Bridge, the course layout of this marathon, and my bib number, I now have it tattooed on the very legs that I used to rely on for so long before unlocking my true potential. I couldn't be more proud of the why behind this tattoo, and I still get chills whenever I think of this overwhelming feeling of power and accomplishment that I took home from that journey. And so I want you to remember that whatever you do in life, there's gonna be a point where you want to quit, where you don't want to do it anymore. But remember, as long as your heart is part of the equation, you will make it through.